You're listening to episode 292 of the Small and Supercharged podcast with Ria Freeman. Well, hello and welcome to this episode of the Small and Supercharged podcast. We're going to address a question today that I think, she says to put a statement out. I think most people are asking this at the moment. Is engagement getting harder on social media? It's a really interesting one because I think we need to look at a few different things I'm going to talk about today. But I'm also going to talk about some of the stats around it, because when we start to look at things, and if we're measuring it against a rate, something that people believe is the average, we need to make sure we know what that average is. Because we can actually find, and I've spoken to loads of people about this, that they're beating themselves up for not doing this or being that. And it turns out they're actually smashing the average. And again, it might be worse for them because maybe they had a higher engagement rate before. But we need to think about this. We need to think about what we're actually aiming for before we start beating ourselves up. So today's podcast is all about, is engagement getting harder on social media? And also, why does that matter? Does it matter if we get less engagement? And we're also going to talk about some things we can do to help boost our engagement. So let's start super basic here, because I know I've been in conversations before, I've been in meetings where people start talking to me in some kind of weird code, full of the acronyms, full of the jargon, and I have no idea what's going on. Now, over the years, I've come to the point where I say, sorry, I have no idea what you're talking about, and we all have a laugh, and then I actually find out what it means. But I know I speak in code to people as well. So let's talk about what engagement rate is. Engagement rate is a really simple sum that I'm probably going to get wrong. I'm not, it's fine. That just shows if people are engaging on your post and to what degree. Now, engagement rate can only be worked out based on the physical, by the interactions that are visible on your post. So these are things like likes, like comments, like shares, like saves, like clicking on a link, or if it's an ad and there's a call to action there, people clicking on that as well. So it can only be judged on the things that that the computer sees. And this is one of the things that's quite annoying, because direct messages aren't included in engagement rate. And we all know that if you get a direct message about a post you put up, that is hugely valuable and much more valuable than someone double tapping on an image. Now, the other thing as well is if you do stories, for example, it looks at views, and if you have got like a poll running or a link or something like that, you can judge engagement rate through that as well. But it is someone taking an action on your post that shows a sign of engagement. It does not take into account the quality of that engagement. It does not take into account what that leads to. And it cannot take into account the people who see what you're doing, nod their head and smile, and perhaps they go off and look at your website. They go off and buy your product. Perhaps they nod and smile and then seek you out at a time in the future. And hand on heart, I've had this happen to me. There've been people that have approached me in places and have said they really like something I've put out, which is lovely, always very happy for that. I have no idea who they are because they've not engaged on anything that I could see. And I do it. I don't know about you, but I will be scrolling through social media. I'll be looking at things. They'll make me smile. They'll make me laugh. They'll make me nod. And I don't double tap. I don't comment, which is ridiculous based on the job I do. There was a post that I saw. I can't remember when it was. It was mid last year. And it's on an account called Mum's Still Got It, which is flipping hilarious. If you've got kids, go and check her out. She's amazing and funny and just speaks to my life. And there was an amazing post she put on, and I was speaking to my husband about it because it was really, really funny. And I was speaking to him about it quite recently for some unknown reason. And I went back through loads of her posts to try and find it, and I found it and I showed him. If that's not valuable engagement for me remembering somebody, recalling who it was, talking about what she'd done, and then telling somebody else, like, I don't know what is. But the killer is I didn't actively engage on it. And I'm telling you this because we're all friends. But it annoyed me that I hadn't, because it was a really, really good post. I really love her content. I'm pretty sure I follow her. If not, I mean, what am I doing with my life? But I hadn't actively engaged. And this is why I think engagement rate it's something that it's the only thing we can work on when we're looking at return on investment in terms of time, in terms of money, if we're advertising, if we're paying people to manage our social media, if we're creating content. We can only look at this kind of engagement. But the real killer, is that the real magic seems to happen in places where it can't be tracked. So it matters because it's the only thing we can see. It doesn't matter because we can't see it all. And some of the most valuable things that have come from my social media, you wouldn't have been able to see on the surface at all. Which is both brilliant and annoying as hell. And that is the thing. When we start to get disheartened by engagement rate, and it is so easy to get disheartened by a low engagement rate, what that can then make us do is think, why the heck are we bothering? Why are we putting so much time, energy, creativity, oomph, brain power into this thing that is yielding nothing or very, very little? And then when we feel like that, the thing to do is to move that to one side and focus on other things. Just logically, that's what you do. If you're looking and you're assessing anything else for the return it gives you and you realise it isn't really giving you a return, you shelve it and you focus on something else. However, the kicker with social media is you don't know if it's having an impact. And I have had too many examples myself, and I know my clients have had too many examples of people really getting a huge amount from their social media and not kind of showing themselves, definitely in the lurker category, and it coming around and being so valuable. And it's a bit like when you advertise in printed media, because people can't click on it or do something that shows they have engaged with it. It can be really hard to judge engagement rate if it has had that positive and desired outcome. It's obviously different in a printed publication because you look at different things, but it's very difficult to know if your ad has landed well, has resonated well. Because what you'll probably find is someone will look at it and go, oh, that's interesting, and they'll go off to their shop and they'll find it, or they'll at another time have a look on the website, or they'll take a photograph, or they'll rip a page out. And that is obviously valuable. It can also be a very valuable brand building tool, and it's super hard to judge engagement rate or return on investment from a brand building tool. And we all know that there has to be numerous touch points before somebody makes a purchase, let's say. But it can also be before someone inquires, even before someone engages with you. Because some people take their engagement really seriously. If they're going to send you a direct message or ask you a question or do something like that, they're probably going to have needed to see your stuff a number of times before they've got the confidence to do that, before they know you well enough. And in that process, they might not have engaged with you actively. But by allowing them the opportunity to see your content and get to know you better, you are increasing the chances of that engagement, and you're increasing the chances of quality engagement when you get there. It's flipping hard though. It is really hard, and it feels crushingly rubbish when you put up something, particularly something you think is good and you've worked on, and the response is lukewarm. It's naff. And it makes you wonder why you bother. But please do not give up on it. Please don't, because it does have value, but annoyingly the things that we judge its value on is only things we can see in the immediate short term, which is not how a lot of marketing works. A lot of promotion, a lot of brand building doesn't work overnight. And yet that is all we've got to judge it on. So let's look at engagement rates. Now, I went onto Hootsuite, which is a fab website, and it had engagement rates from a few different industries. And I did some kind of head maths. I'm saying head maths because I didn't go through with my phone calculator, or just a calculator, and add them all up and then divide it by 12, because I didn't do that. I just kind of looked in my head and looked what I thought roughly was the average across the categories. So I'm not miles out here, but just so you know, they did some work in this year, 2024, and they found the average engagement rates to be as follows for the platforms as follows. As I said, head maths, ballpark figures we're talking here. Okay, average Instagram. What do you think? Place your bets now. 1.5%. I think I've got average 1.55. I don't know how I decided I'd work that out in my head, but hey, there we go. Facebook, place your bets. 1%. X, 1%. I've put one-ish. LinkedIn, the same. TikTok, ballpark, 0.5%. So before you start beating yourself up that your engagement rate is rubbish, keep this in mind. This is average. Head maths, average. Go and look at Hootsuite for more specific stats, and you can pick the industry you're in as well and get more specific stats on that, because some do better in different places. You know, there are, I think it was the government that did particularly well on Facebook, for example. I've probably completely butchered that, probably a different platform, but they do move around depending on what you're doing. If you're a B2B business, I'd expect you to have more traction on LinkedIn than on a different platform. So there you go. So before we stop beating ourselves up about NAF engagement rate, let's think of the average engagement rates here. And also, what we said about how to work these out is you basically add up all of your engagements, your likes, your comments, your save, etc., etc., etc. You divide it by the number of followers you have, and you times it by 100, and that will work out your average engagement rate. You can do this across a few posts if you like. That's probably quite a good shout because it is average. So you'd obviously have to do the maths based on that as well. So now we need to think about how we can buck the trend. Although before we go into this, I want just to remember everything we've talked about. We're looking at how to boost engagement rate, but we're looking at how to boost it in the right ways. This isn't a quick fix. This is not a quick fix. And I think that when we look at the average, it's going to be really hard to turn that tide. Now, I don't know about you, but I find that some of my posts do really well and some of them do really, really rubbish. Now, the ones that do really well tend to be the ones where I'm announcing something exciting. I remember when I announced my book deal with Bloomsbury, people were so lovely, like so lovely, and it warmed my heart. And there were so many lovely, lovely comments. You can't do that every day, and if you did, it would lose its appeal and your engagement would plummet anyway. So you can't announce like amazing things, finalists, awards, cool deals, whatever, every single day. But you'll probably find they'll do quite well. So posting really good content is obviously part of this. We need to make sure what we're putting out there we're proud of and it's good and it's representative, and we're not just going, oh God, we need to post today, which I'm sure we're all guilty of. But generally, we need to make sure we're posting good stuff. We need to make sure that our imagery or our video is stopping that scroll. So let's not be posting landscape on Instagram. Let's look at what we're posting on, what the platform we're posting on is, and what imagery, what creative works best there, and doubling down on that. And then we need to make sure that the caption is engaging, so people click on more or they actually bother to engage. So asking a question, a call to action, something that gives them something to speak to. Experiment with things. If you always post images, start posting some videos and look at what other people are doing, either in your area as direct competition, ideally beyond as well. Look for trends that are going on that you think will work for your business, your brand, and how you can tap into that and start experimenting. Now, the head of Instagram, Adam Mosseri, I'm sure I pronounce his name wrong every single time I say that, but he actually said that when you post more, it doesn't hurt you. Some people for a long time have said if you post more, it kind of argues with each other, but he put up a post a little while ago saying that wasn't the case. So what I mean by that is that don't stress about over posting. If you've got cool stuff to say it. Experiment though. See the whole thing as an experiment. When people engage with you, for the love of God, engage back. I mean, that is just such an easy one. That is such a no-brainer. If you want to improve your engagement rate, and people are engaging with you, engage back, because what it's doing is it's teaching them that you actually care. They know that you care because you're putting the effort in. And what will probably happen is they'll engage back again and you'll get into a chat. And that's actually how you develop good connections and good relationships and things that are going to add value to you on a deeper level. So do that. And then also be proactive. Start commenting, start liking, start sharing, start being what you want your fans and followers to be on Instagram, on Facebook, on wherever you are hanging out. Do it. They're simple steps, but they will make a difference. Being active on the platform makes a difference. Posting in the way that it wants you to. Posting things like, if you're on Instagram, stories and reels, experimenting with reels on Facebook. They are doing more short form video and LinkedIn now. Experiment with it. Try it out. See what works. Do more of it. But also, it is not the engagement side. We should be trying to nurture it, should be trying to encourage it, we should be trying to grow it, but we should be trying to grow quality that leads to stuff we want, not simply quantity for our ego, because that will not do any good at all, and it will not pay the bills, and it will not be useful for us. We also need to appreciate that not everyone actively engages. They kind of engage in their head. I think we're all guilty of that. And that is why we should keep showing up. If you're looking to go viral, you need one piece of content to go viral, and it's very difficult to judge exactly which one that's going to be. So before I leave you, I hope that's given you some food for thought. I'm just going to give a shout out to the book, because Mastermind is closing for enrollment. By the time you listen to this, it will be. So if you're interested, there'll be, you can fill in the form on my website still, but there will be, I'm not taking on people at the moment for Mastermind. But the book's great. If you head over to Amazon and look for Small and Supercharged, there is a book that I wrote. It's a bestseller, which is lovely. All about ways to promote your brand on a budget, with loads of stuff about social media, but plenty more besides. So head over there. If you've got a couple of seconds, I would love you to review and rate the podcast. It really, really helps. Helps me, helps everyone else, helps people looking for whether or not they want to listen to the podcast or not. And we know that that is important. So have a great day. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll catch up soon.